Thanks very much. Our session is going to be, I think traditionally at a lot of the conferences, there's more of a focus towards business markets in Africa, especially from a hospitality perspective. Our session is going to focus more on the East African coast, as well as on the Tanzanian coast, as well as more focused towards Zanzibar. So I think the discussions are to understand, how these markets have changed, how's the demand changes occurring, especially in places like Mombasa, Diani Beach, in terms of those leisure markets, as well as from a Zanzibar perspective, what's driving that growth, in terms of we can explore things like air traffic, which has increased dramatically in terms of coming in, as well as how those markets might have shifted over the last 5 years. So I think if we can start, I think I'll start with Wessam, because he has a number of properties and we focus more on the markets and how the markets have changed. It'd be interesting to understand from your experience, from TUI's entrance into Zanzibar, what have you seen over the last 5-7 years in terms of market growth and traveling patterns? I mean, we saw, pre-COVID, some of the markets changed from being more dominant towards, tour package markets, not as much on the, safari linkages. And then also how that changed during COVID, with certain markets entering, and then thereafter, and driven by air traffic. So just to get your view in terms of what you're seeing, the kind of brands that you've put in there, lessons learned from a market perspective.
Thank you, Wayne. Thank you for having me here. I think Zanzibar is for us a very important destination. We started to focus on Zanzibar not only as a tour operator, but also as a hotel operator. We own the first hotel there, which is the TUI Blue Bahari, and operated very, very successfully. Now, we saw during the pandemic that Zanzibar was the destination which did not have a lockdown, and fortunately or unfortunately, we can discuss about it. But we had a very, very good business also during the pandemic. So that was a very good surprise for us. Even the fact that not a lot of European from our source markets as a tour operator did not access the Zanzibar. But now post-pandemic, we see like an amazing development in there. A lot of requirement for business, for luxury travel. The reason why we have been acquiring a new property, which is, as we speak, it is under conversion. That's going to be, we even introduced a new brand, which will be operated by us. And that is the Mora. And that property will be, the official opening is on the 10th of June this year. And I think definitely Zanzibar will be picking up much more as we think. From tour operator side, I think up to 3 times more as up to now or before the pandemic, clearly.
I mean, a lot of it's been that international tour package market, 10 days, and we've seen the most growth in terms of that from Europe. But are we seeing a shift now towards more luxury, more, and Kieran, you can also jump in here because your product is focused more on boutique niche market in terms of linkages with the safari, and also just understand in terms of, are we seeing potential from a luxury perspective? And
being part of the tour operator #1 in the world is a very nice added value for us as a hotel operator. So today I can tell you that we are pioneering the market post-pandemic in offering. We have a lot of requests, for example, coming to Zanzibar, that the guests want to experience more cultural stuff. So we are focusing as well to introduce shortly, by the end of this year, a new brand which is going to be focusing on lodges, TUI Blue Lodges. That's going to be like a high-end lodges around Tanzania and also the Serengeti. So in the perfect world of TUI, a guest from any source market, I'm talking about UK, German-speaking markets, Benelux markets, they will be going and buying one ticket. Preferably they will fly with TUI Fly into the destination. They can book 3 hotels or 4 hotels, even maybe in West Africa, 4 destinations for one price. Now, coming back to Zanzibar, I think our added value will be you can experience the Mora as a luxury brand. You can experience that high quality TUI Blue as a 4-star plus with a special tailored experience, which is really like integrated into our tour operating with a guide. And then if the guest wants to go, for example, to any of the lodges, they can do for one price. That's our advantage with the mother company as a tour operator.
Yeah, I'll come back to that about, what's the appeal about Zanzibar, but maybe if I can hear from Kieran, just in terms of your experience. You've got a small boutique property, more focused on the high end. I mean, how's that changed in terms of how have you seen things in the last 5 years or so, and the kind of linkages? And have you looked at, have you had to position that product differently, or in terms of how you distribute it, so in terms of the distribution channels?
Thanks, Wayne. So when we started with Kilindi in Zanzibar, the intention was it was a bolt-on to our safari circuits, both Kenya, perhaps more so Tanzania, and specifically for certain key source markets who were always going to be more inclined to extend to beach, the European markets in particular, more so than North America and other parts of the world. So that was our motivation for putting Kilindi into play. We realized after a while that relying on the FIT luxury safari outbound market to feed that property to the levels that it needed was a mistake. And so we looked at distributing inventory via different channels, particularly OTAs, and we do a lot of work with TUI as well, thank you. And that was a game changer for that particular property. It was our mistake. We realized that our mistake, we changed it. Kilindi's doing, I would say 3-4 times better than it was pre-pandemic. And we've got plans to move that needle further going forward. There is still an element of FIT safari inbound business that wants to extend to the beach. We're seeing probably 20 to 25% of our revenues coming from that particular segment.
Okay, because I know at one stage in Zanzibar it picked up quite significantly, and Zanzibar was moving that way towards the safari, but it doesn't seem to have taken off completely and been dominant. The package tour seems to be more focused. But just generically around staying with Zanzibar, what's, I mean, from anybody that wants to chip in, what do you see as the appeal of Zanzibar? I mean, where does it fit? Why is it a new destination that everybody's clamoring towards? Is it where it's positioned in terms of positioning from a price perspective? Is it location? Is it the fact that it's got that more exotic kind of African feel comparative to maybe other more established destinations? Maybe just let's understand, what's coming through in terms of, because obviously demand is driving everything.
Thank you. So I think historically Zanzibar has a lot of history, a lot of culture, obviously the pristine beach, which is what people come out for. And then it's also, an additional leg to bush and all of that. So, before I moved to Dubai, recently I was based in India, and during COVID time, for Indians, Maldives was a great destination just because it was open and rest of the world was closed, and I understand Zanzibar was also open during that time. So, things like that add, it's just not a beach, but there is much more to it, and I think that's a charm. In this part of the world, a lot of people will know Zanzibar, but in India and Asia, when you talk about it, they have heard about it, may not know much in detail about it, and there is always a curiosity to know more about. And destination like that, generally, I think, do well because there's always this thing of exploring the unknown, and I think Zanzibar has that zing thing for me.
Yeah, and to add to what Govind just mentioned, so Zanzibar as a destination has significantly evolved, especially during COVID, and the source markets have increased as well. Now, earlier since COVID, you've been seeing a lot of Eastern Europeans coming in, a lot of GCC travelers have started to adopt the destination as well, and obviously from emerging markets such as India and so on and so forth, you have a lot of travelers coming in. One is, of course, because of the beaches and the history that there is, but two, the airports as well. Donata has very recently increased their operations, started their operations, in the market, which generally tends to help in terms of generating more and more demand. Also, you have the likes of Serengeti, Ngorongoro, and all these other unique destinations where travelers can go, they can enjoy the beach, they can enjoy a safari, they can enjoy a volcanic crater. So there's so much for the country to offer that it just becomes a bit of a no-brainer as a destination to visit. Yeah, and you have very few places in the world that have such a vast offering, such as, one such as Tanzania, but even Kenya, for that example, you've got the resorts in the East Coast, you've got, again, the likes of Masai Mara and all the other national parks, and again, Nairobi as a city.
Just to add to that, I think we know where Marriott have got their eyes set, Serengeti and Ngorongoro Crater. Thank you. But it makes sense to link the beach and the bush, certainly, from a big international brand point of view. I think having 1,400 odd hotels on Zanzibar at different price points with air access, which is greater than it's ever been, is driving a lot of global interest in that destination, more so than ever before. And it has the allure of the exotic spice island in the Indian Ocean. It's competitively priced compared to Seychelles, Maldives, etc. And again, going back to the point just made, it links with mainland Kenya and Tanzania for other experiences.
I fully agree with all of you guys. That bring me to a clear, short statement actually about destination management, where we are very strong in it with our TUI amusement. I think the reason why this trend is coming to Zanzibar is a clear strategy of positioning the product on the international market, on all source market. Zanzibar was maybe after Seychelles one of the very little destinations who did not went to low pricing. They kept the price. They've increased the volume. Now the new airport coming up to operate, and I think that strategy has been completely paid off, where Zanzibar has been now positioned to really, I would say, to compete even with Seychelles or with Mauritius sometimes, in some part of the year. And that is in my opinion, it's an absolutely good things for the island.
Yeah, I think let's touch on air access, because I think everything opens up when you have air access. I mean, I'm sure, Kieran, your OTA markets growing is probably driven by air access, and like the French markets, Air France, and other airlines coming in with Emirates. I mean, I think, Weston, you were talking a little bit earlier on the break, saying that you're now starting to see a lot of the UAE markets starting to come through Emirates, where they're taking on. I mean, they traditionally, a lot of that goes to Seychelles, but now we're starting to see that. So air access opens up everything, and we can also talk a little bit about, if you've got any views on the air access relating to Mombasa as well, we can talk about that.
So I think clearly, if we compare 2022 and 2023, we realize, and I'm talking now about our numbers, yeah, we have 170% more arrival, I would say, in Mombasa than the year before, which is a great success. I think the trend will be continuing. We are opening very shortly. We're starting the construction of TUI Blue Watamu, which we have signed in December. The owner is here with us. So that's going to be a beautiful property. I think the beaches are going in the right direction after 2017.
Is that in Mombasa?
Sorry? Watamu is it's close by to Mombasa, yes.
No, I'm saying your new brand. You're going to be opening that up in Mombasa.
This is Mombasa, yes, in Watamu. So basically, I think in general, if we see now the numbers of all the destinations in East Africa, I'm talking about Mauritius, Seychelles, Mombasa, or Kenya in general, we are increasing the volume as a tour operator, and we are expecting more and more guests to coming to our brands. And we see definitely space for one more TUI Blue in the Mombasa coast, plus a good Mora.
In terms of, let's touch a little bit on Mombasa. How does that differ in terms of how's the growth occurred post-COVID? I mean, is Mombasa more of a domestic market? Are we starting to see, I mean, traditionally over the years, there was a lot, Diani Beach was a lot more international. Has that come back in a significant way? And as you're saying, obviously air access is growing that. And in terms of segmentation, I mean, is there opportunity there for luxury markets, or is it more of a sort of 3-star, 4-star kind of lower price point than other destinations?
I think after 20 years of abstinence and of missing good product on the coast, 2017 when the rail came in and then the domestic tourism has been really kicked off in a good way. Now the international community has there's something going on. I think it's a clear, great statement to see Fly Dubai coming in. I think also the government and the authorities here are open bit by bit to accept international airline landing. This all will lead definitely to have an increase in the international segmentation. There is no doubt. We are evaluating. Actually, tomorrow we're flying together with Samantha, which is covering for us all the continent. We're evaluating even an acquisition for one property, a big box property. It's going to be like around 300, 350 rooms, where we need it actually for the tour operator, because we believe that Mombasa will be definitely, if not doubling, maybe tripling the volume from the tour operator point of view. To be very precise on your question, I think yes, luxury is coming up also to Mombasa, and on the long term there will be space for that as well, which lead also for Marriott maybe or for Wyndham to come.
I think just to add to that, I think there's a lot of government interest in rebuilding tourism in the right way in this country, both central, national government and county government. I think we'll see a transformation in the coming years in South Coast in particular, Diani, and North Coast as well, Mombasa. Interesting to see 8,500 odd passengers arriving on cruise ships landing at Mombasa since January of this year, which is a complete turnaround of Mombasa's fortunes in that sense. It lost them years ago when there was insecurity and other problems. There are some challenges around the port phasing, the rebuilding of the port in Mombasa, the dredging of sand from outside of Diani. Concerns have been expressed from an environmental point of view, and then the knock-on effect on tourism in that particular zone. But as a coastline, Kenya is spectacular. It has many other opportunities, and I think that if government gets behind it, then it will be a well-supported destination by inbound investors and international brands.
But in terms of like competitiveness and where it's positioning, I mean, are you seeing that? I mean, what are the key competitors out there in terms of competitor destinations from a South Coast, Diani perspective and Mombasa?
I think there is not a lot of international brand. There is local brand. The other problem in Diani and all over the coast in there is that nobody has been putting any capex in the last couple of years. So you have really very much tired properties. This is our biggest challenge from the tour operator point of view, but also as operator. Now we are very, very happy to be involved from the beginning with the TUI Blue Watamu, with a very open owner to go into sustainability, because we have just introduced our green building guide, and that hotel will be like a number one product on the coast. And I truly believe that will be a reason for a lot of brands to come and to explore this and to do better product as now.
So I'd just like to add from a Wyndham perspective, when we look at the East Coast, the opportunity which we see, and you have just touched upon that there are a lot of independent hotels tired and battered during the COVID time. And those may be a great candidate for conversion opportunities with the international flag. And not all of them are in upscale, upper upscale. A lot of them are also in mid-scale. Wyndham, out of the 25 brands, 15, 16 of them are in mid-scale. and we see that as a great opportunity to move in, and the level of interest which we have got in last 5-6 months, a lot of them are less than 80 keys, which is something which we shy away because 60-65 room may not make sense. But there are some big boxes out there, and I think we should be able to see a lot of conversion opportunity, and from an independent flag to an international flag soon there.
So Jugal, I think, and Govind, this question, and obviously you're looking at the opportunities on the East Coast, and I mean, a lot of those properties are independently operated and run, as we mentioned, in terms of CapEx, haven't spent a lot of money in terms of that. What models are you considering from an international brand, and also where do you see you adding the most value? And in terms of those models, you're looking at the franchise model or fully managed model. What are the challenges in terms of, can you see a potential return on investment for the owner if they spend in terms of get compliance with the brand? And kind of what brands are you looking at kind of bringing in? Are you looking at the softer brands? Are you looking at more hard brands and from a positioning perspective? So maybe just talk around that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this has been the trend in Zanzibar for us of late. Over the last few years, we've managed to convert 3 hotels, all 3 of them under our collection brands. So we've got the Autograph Collection that opened up a couple of years ago. We've got 2 Tribute Portfolio hotels that we opened last year. All of them are relatively, I would say, smaller key counts compared to any other hotels that we open in other destinations, but it works for the owner because it's a fairly easier conversion as long as they're able to put some level of the capex in. We work under franchise agreements, so it becomes a lot more cost effective for the owner as well, and they can continue running the property exactly the way they were running it, provided they understand typically how to use our systems and the brand standards, that they tend to adhere to that. And it works really well from a distribution perspective. As you know, we're the largest loyalty program in the world. We've got more than 200 million members. We tend to generate a lot of direct bookings through our loyalty program channels, but also through Marriott.com and other websites that we have internally. So that results in generally higher ADRs, which obviously affects the bottom line as well positively. And it induces demand to a lot of destinations from source markets and individuals and potential guests that would generally not, visit those destinations per se. So all in all, it is a decent amount of benefit for the owners, and so far we've been receiving very positive feedback from them.
So from a Wyndham perspective, we are not very stuck upon what model we would like to go. We like to work with the owner, understand what is that he's looking at. If he's comfortable running the hotel himself, franchise works. I can see Michael from Vellore. We work with third-party operators. So if an owner is looking at a white label operator to run, and we do manage hotel in this part of the world. So if owner doesn't want to get into operation, we are happy to do that. Where we can come and help independent owners, and you spoke about the cost of renovation. For advanced brownfield conversion, we do have key money where we put in certain amount of money for owners to renovate the property, and we have seen owner valuing that commitment from the brand, which helps in upgrading the property. And we like Marriott, we have hard and soft brands. Registry Collection, Trademark Collection are our soft brand, and if an owner wants to retain his own name, or the name is so popular that he see value in that, the soft brand comes into play. But if the property is old and there are history with that property, then probably a hard brand like a Ramada or a Wyndham makes more sense. We are more pro-owner, just to understand what is that he is looking at, and then we are able to customize our offering specific to that asset and to owner's requirement. So that's where we come in.
Yeah, just in terms of touching on that cost of conversion, do you have any initiatives that obviously can soften that a bit in terms of, obviously fire, life and safety is a big cost often. Are there any ways in which you can mitigate that or reduce that, or are you a bit more flexible, and when does that come into play?
So, sorry, I'll just take that. I think from a Wyndham perspective, we are a bit more practical in what is required to be done, and I'll take example during the COVID time. A lot of independent hotel came to us because they were struggling, and we looked at conversion, and for us, fire life safety is obviously one big elephant in the room, and there's no compromise, so you have to have all of that. Luckily in resort, if they are not high-rise, then fire life safety doesn't end up being that challenge. If the building is less than 9 meters, we don't need sprinkler and all of that, which actually, from an engineering point of view, need a lot of breakage and all of that. Putting a smoke detector is much easier if it is not there. So for the resort, FLS is actually not much of a challenge for us. We are able to find solution which works and which gives us the kind of security we need from fire life safety. But in terms of product upgrade, what we do is we are more flexible. There are certain things which need to be done before the flag is up. But there are certain things which are not critical and may not be, something which will impact owner's experience. So we are okay to phase out the property improvement plan over 9 months to 18 months to, in some cases, 24 months also. And particularly in COVID time, we were much more flexible because owners were struggling, and expecting an owner to do $1 million renovation at that point of time was not. But typically, between 12 months to 24 months is something which we'll expect owner to, comply with the PIP, which we agree to, property improvement plan. And from there we go. So we are more practical from that perspective.
And to add to what you just mentioned, I'll give you a little bit of an example of the 2 properties that we converted last year. And we've signed them as tribute portfolio properties, and again, they fall under what we like to call the small hotels category for fire, life and safety. Of course, nobody wants to compromise on fire, life and safety, but for hotels of a certain height and a certain number of keys, there are certain exceptions that we can give, such as sprinklers, etc., etc. What we did was, in order not to, because these are operating hotels, so in order for them to continue to run, we worked on a property improvement plan with the owner. We've opened them, we've plugged them into our system already under a white label operation, whereby the owner's managing it themselves. They've got about a year and a half or so, and a phase PIP in order to convert the properties to meet the brand standards of the Tribute portfolio brand. So that way the owner gets the benefit of our distribution channels. They can continue to run their hotel while phasing out the renovation, and then ultimately they get into the system again as a branded property. So that's a bit of an advantage that we see as well. And of course, we've supported the owner from a commercial perspective, etc., details of which I, for obvious reasons, can't get into. But all in all, we've got some good partners, and we're trying to help them out as much as we can.
Yeah, Wissa, maybe just from your side, I mean, is TUI adopt the same kind of principles as the other brands in terms of, I'd say more, excuse the word, rigidity in terms of, fire, life and safety, or standards, very, very high standards, and less flexible, despite what we...
So from TUI Blue perspective, it's a clear, we have a clear flexibility on this. Flexibility in the term that I think we have one of the most complicated and secure requirement for FLS, for fire life safety. This comes from the history of the group, coming from the TUI UK, which has really like hard conditions. We have now in Zanzibar a very nice example. We bought the property, and then we are putting like even more money in the FLS and in the conversion to the Mora. So that flexibility give us like today not to reduce or not to do some stuff. It's in the reverse. We don't speak about key money, but we speak, for example, about maybe pre-investment in some stuff where the owner itself they cannot put on table. There is like a lot of formulas which we can use just to make sure that our standards and procedures are all accepted in the property, in the new property coming into our systems. We signed on the December 19 actually a global agreement with Valor Hospitality, where we are going with them very fast on this continent, but also globally, even in the Middle East. The Watamu deal is actually one blueprint which we will be rolling out with Valor Hospitality together as a white brand, and I see a lot of of potential for having few of our other brands. We own actually in the group 13 brands, which give us the flexibility from a price cautious level until the Mora. Now, regarding contracts, we hunt actually and we focus on management contracts because we are obviously a young brand and we can control the brand better. The Mora as a luxury brand will not be a franchise, but in other brands we can eventually speak about franchise, yes.
Okay, Mary, are we open to do questions on the floor? 2 minutes. 2 questions. Okay, so I don't know if anybody has any questions from the floor. We restricted to 2 questions. So.
No questions.
No questions. Okay, there's one question.
Speak loud. Oh, yeah. Thanks. Hi, my name is Art. I'm just an amateur here. But basically, my question when we talk about East Africa, is there a massive difference between sort of northern coast, which is anything around Watamu, Kilifi, and whatnot, versus Diani? Just wonder how you thoughts on those know about it. Yeah.
We might give that one to Kieran, saying he's been in Kenya the longest.
Yeah, there's quite a big difference. South Coast, Mombasa, even North Coast is quite hectic from a development point of view. That brings other issues. A lot of people complain about the beach boy concept. These are guys that just want to, and girls that just want to go and earn a living. They're entrepreneurial. But unfortunately, government hasn't found a way to strike that balance between their interests and the interests of the tourism operator. Ultimately, their guests. The North Coast represents opportunity going forward. There are certain parts of it which have fantastic beaches which are underexploited and could become luxury destinations in their own right if they are managed properly. Unfortunately, the army in particular suffered after Lyconi. There was this rampant ratcheting down of pricing. It became a very cheap destination as a result and never actually recovered. A lot of the hotels ended up in receivership. There was all the terrorism issues back in 2000 and beyond. It remains a problem to this day, so we hope that government will collaborate with local government to sort the problem out once and for all, maybe compulsory purchase some of those redundant properties and repurpose them and reimagine the army as a whole. But to your point, yes, there is a big difference between north and south. Malindi is another example of somewhere that has the potential to be a very interesting destination. Lamu stands out on its own. It has its own breed of traveller interests that go there. And Watamu is quite heavily residentially built up, but again still has opportunity to become something much more than it is today.
Don't know if there's any last question?
Because if we look at Malindi, which you've just mentioned, I think one of the major issues there is the access, because today for Tui and for Elewana, you have to land in Mombasa with your guests or they have to come to Nairobi. The air access is extremely poor. So is there some pressure that is going to be exercised by the private sector on the government to improve the air connections? And there's been talk in Malindi for years and years and years of improving Malindi Airport so it can become a second hub, therefore benefit Watamu, Malindi, and all this side that is undercovered.
I think if there was a master plan for the entire coastline of Kenya that made commercial sense from a government point of view, I think there'd be a lot more motivation to do something about that long-standing issue, which has been on the agenda for 20 years. And that's just simply a question of extending the runway at Malindi. But I think there's been all sorts of community issues, all sorts of politics played, which have prevented that happening. But it's not beyond the realms and capability of the current incumbent regime to do something about it and fix it once and for all.
I think clearly the pressure is there. There is no doubt. I mean, we are operating as tour operator in that area for over 30 years. A lot of hoteliers are suffering as well from the inconnectivity which is existing. But I can tell you today, things are improving. I think everybody knows that there is a project of open sky in the frozen since over 20 years. I don't think it will happen, but the fact that now TUI Fly will be coming, I think this is a clear signal that there is some flexibility here in place, and then the responsible authorities which are here, they understand that attracting international operators, but also investors, but also airline, will improve actually the labor market, but also the life of a lot of people. This is where we come into our TUI Care Foundation, where we are putting not only pressure, we are putting like different program where we empower local community, where we work together with the local community just to make sure that we can bring topics like sustainability and then better tourism and hospitality to the area, clearly.
Okay, thanks very much. I think that's a good way to end things. Thanks very much to my panel. Before we end, I believe somebody has a gift for us. It's always nice to receive something from an operator for free. But
I'm just confirming what Moray say. Don't forget to put your business card here. That's going to be like at 5:30, I think, during the cocktail. We will be pulling out five days stay in our TUI Blue Zanzibar. So please, if you haven't been putting your business card here, just feel free to put it here. Thank you.
Thanks very much.